All right, welcome to the Lovecraft eZine podcast. Today is September the 3rd, 2017, and our guest today is Willie Meikle. We'll talk to him in just a minute. Let's do introductions and prizes. Well, let's do, what are you giving away? What's your prize, Matt?
Okay, this is something that is really cool. It just got released by PS Publishing. It is a graphic novel retelling of Lovecraft's life called Some Notes on a Non-Entity. The exterior and interior art, which is quite good, is by Jason Eckhart. And the text is by Sam Gafford. And this is not a fanciful reimagining. It's just a retelling of his life, but in graphic novel form. So it's really a nice little book. I would ask, if you do win it, Sam Gafford would like it if you would post your thoughts about it on Amazon. But of course, there's no requirement. Whoever wins it, wins it.
All right, well, let's do introductions for those who don't know us. I'm Mike Davis, and let's start with Pete.
Hey, I'm Pete Rollick, the author of Reanimator's Weird Company and Reanimatrix, and editor of The Legacy of the Reanimator.
All right, Rick.
I'm Rick Meikle, writer and expert on pulp heroes.
And Matt.
Hi, I'm Matt Carpenter. I edit for Ulthar Books occasionally. I do believe, having spoken to the publisher, that Pickman's Gallery is a go. We should be informing authors very soon of acceptances. So I know it's taken a long time, but it's happening.
All right, for those watching, I know an awful lot of people listen later to the podcast audio-only edition because they can listen on the go and such. But for those who are watching, you'll notice you can't see me today. That's because we had to jury rig some things today to get Willie on the show, and I really wanted to get him on the show. Willie lives out there in Newfoundland and sort of on the edge of the earth where they don't have the greatest internet service. So I've basically got Willie on a Facebook call with me while I've got the Google Hangout going. So like I said, I jury rigged it. So, hey, Willie, how's it going?
Going well, thank you. And where we are in Newfoundland here, I'm about as far east on the North American continent as you can get. I think there's only one town further east than us, who's a bit further down the coast. So we're right on the edge of the Atlantic Ocean, looking back out towards Britain.
Yeah, and you're right on the ocean, aren't you?
Yeah, there's a little bay in front of the house, but just on the other side of the bay is the Atlantic Ocean. There's nothing for 3,000 miles or something.
That's great. Well, from Willie's Amazon profile, I'll just read a bit. William Meikle is a Scottish writer now living in Canada with over 20 novels published in the genre press and over 300 short story credits. You've written an awful lot, and you've got another book coming out soon, Carnacki, The Edinburgh Townhouse and Other Stories.
Yeah, I've got the Carnacki book coming from your good self, and I've got another 4 new novels with Crossroad Press. I'll talk about a bit later, and there's another short story collection coming now. So got plenty still in the pipeline. Doesn't seem to stop.
Well, okay, let's start with Carnacki. For those who don't know who he is, can you talk about him? Who is he? Because you write about him an awful lot. This will be your 3rd book.
Yeah, now. He's over 100 years old now. William Hodgson is a British writer who was writing back in 1910, the First World War. A very good weird writer before Lovecraft, who was writing cosmic themes. His novel, The House in the Borderland, is one of the early cosmic horror novels, and it's wonderful. I recommend it to anybody that wants to read it. Carnacki is his occult detective, a man who investigates paranormal and does it through scientific means, really. He's just a man. He gets scared a lot. He runs away when things get very scary, but he always comes through and works on it in the end. And that's what attracts me to him, really.
Okay. This is from your website. Carnacki resonated with me immediately on my first reading many years ago. Several of the stories have a Lovecraftian viewpoint with cosmic entities that have no regard for the doings of mankind. Yeah. And then you go on to say the background Hodgson proposes fits with some of my own viewpoint on the ways the universe might function. And I'm really interested in hearing you talking about that.
Oh, that's old hippie shit, isn't it? It's but my scientific background makes me think that everything is just mechanics, the Newtonian view of the universe. But I've also occasionally had glimpses of what can only class as things beyond the veil, like paranormal activity going on, or I've had quite a few what you call precognitive dreams, one of which saved me from a car crash. And I had an old Scottish granny who was very much a psychic. She always knew there was something going wrong in the family and could always tell when something was happening somewhere else, even if it was hundreds of miles away. So all of that sort of comes together in my head with Carnacki's viewpoint of there being something out there that we're not meant to see, that we can occasionally touch if we try hard enough. We may not like when we get to touch.
So this is your third Carnacki book, as you said, published by Lovecraft eZine Press, I'm proud to say.
Yeah.
What about Derek Adams, The Amulet? That was I believe The Amulet was the first book I ever read of yours. Can you talk about who Derek Adams is?
It was one of my original ideas. I've been writing for 25 years now, and Derek was one of the first guys that came to me in my head that somebody wanted to write about. This would be back in 92-ish, round about then. One of the earliest short stories I ever wrote was called The Johnson Amulet, and it was the short story version of what became the novel in the end. Derek's basically me if I stayed in Scotland and stayed in Glasgow. He's a bit of a slob, smokes too much, drinks too much, and potters around Glasgow, getting involved in all sorts of supernatural cases, even though he doesn't want to. He's the places he lives, the places he frequents, the bars he frequents are all real bars I used to frequent as a student. And it's basically my way of having fun with a Scottish version of a very old trope, the down at heel private eye who gets involved in cases that he shouldn't do.
I think we lost Willie.
Well,
let's give it a second.
Till we get him back.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is a really fun series. And it isn't all mythos. It's very much more Scottish. But the first book, The Amulet, that is clearly a mythos novel. And it is tremendously entertaining. He wrote two others in the series. One was The Sirens. I have a copy of it. Well, there was The Skin Game, which is lycanthropes. And The Sirens, now these are the old covers. So this is when these books originally came out. Which is more dealing with Norse myths, to be honest. So it's like in each case, it's like he gets further and further drawn into these supernatural things that are completely outside the realm of his experience, whereas he's typically just, 250 quid a day gumshoe who really smokes and drinks all the time. So
we got Willie back, so
okay. So it's
here he is.
very much worth exploring. If you're interested in Mr. Meikle as an author, it's a great place to jump in.
And I think we lost you somewhere, Willie, where you were talking about those bars are real bars. I think that's about when you cut out.
That was almost the last thing I said before the call dropped. Derek's actually based on a man I met in one of those bars who was a bit of a fixer. He did little jobs for people. Wasn't an official private eye, but he acted as if he was, and he went around the bars doing jobs for favours, basically, and working his way through the Glasgow gangland. He was one of the more interesting people on yet, and he turned into Derek in the end after a bit of tweaking. Derek doesn't swear as much as that guy did, but apart from that, very like him.
Yeah, for those listening, thanks for sticking with us. Like I said, I had to kind of jury-rig things today, but I'm glad I did. I've wanted to talk with Willie for a long time. Willie, how did you first become interested in Lovecraftian horror?
Well, again, this goes way back.
Yeah.
Because I'm an old fart, I've been reading science fiction since the 60s. And back there, this must have been about, I can't remember when the first 2001 film came out, it must be 69, round about then. I was reading Arthur C. Clarke, and somebody said about 2001, oh, that's Lovecraftian. And I thought, what the hell does that mean? Never heard that word before. So I went to the library, I looked for Lovecraft, and I found a copy of At the Mountains of Madness. So this would be 1969. I read it one summer's afternoon sitting out the back door in bright sunshine. And I still remember that vividly, but that was my first introduction to Lovecraft. So we're talking, getting over 50 years now.
Yeah.
After that, I moved on to Hodgson very quickly. I found House in the Borderland very quickly after that. And I also found John Wyndham, whose scientific mixture of science and horror reminded me quite a bit of Lovecraft. So between the three of them, I think that was my entry point into the whole Lovecraftian horror scene.
Well, I don't want to hog all the questions. I know these guys have questions for you too. Who wants to start, Matt?
I do. How did you get started? How did you get started writing? Did you do it at university, or is it something you did for a long time before?
I was a teenager. I was writing song lyrics and playing the guitar, mainly to try and get into girl pants, but not that successfully. I wrote a couple of short stories back then, but I was mainly trying to sing and play guitar and study at university at the same time after that. So the writing took a back burner. Then I went to London to work in a high-pressure job and got married, and the writing disappeared completely for a while. Then I got divorced and lost that high-pressure job and ended up in a boring, very, very dull computer programming job for a while. And that seemed to kick my brain into thinking maybe I should be doing something else. So by this time I was in my early 30s, this would be about 90, 91, and that's when I really started wrote a couple of short stories and started sending them off, mainly to the British Small Press. And I was in the British Small Press most of the time through the 90s, just selling loads and loads of stories for $5 a pop or just for copies. The real interesting stuff didn't really start happening until about 2005 when I started making pro sales and getting into bigger markets. And then about 10 years ago now, 2008-ish, 2009-ish, started getting the deals with places like Dark Regions, and so started making a bit more of a name for myself. So it's been, I was at it for about 15 years before I really started getting it, I think.
Matt, you got another question?
Yes. So a lot of people will start off, if they're Lovecraft fans, they kind of dip their toes into it by writing a pastiche of some sort or a very heavily influenced work before they sort of incorporate some themes and just branch off onto their own. So what was your history with writing Lovecraftiana?
Yeah, I didn't do a pastiche route because it didn't feel right to me. Being Scottish and small town boy and not literary in really any great sense of the word at all, my writing style is a lot flatter than Lovecraft's, a lot less flowery, and I was more comfortable doing things like the Derek Adams book was my way in rather than writing Lovecraftian pastiches. When it came to pastiches, the way I found into pastiche was more through Conan Doyle, another fine Scotsman, whose writing style fitted my own a lot better than Lovecraft's did. And I think that's how I got more into the way of writing the more historical fiction. And from Conan Doyle, I then moved more into the Lovecraftian weird stuff. Backwards to go forwards, if you see what I mean.
Yes, absolutely.
So you've done a lot of work with Professor Challenger.
Yes, I was lucky there. That Renaissance Press, who I was writing Sherlock Holmes stories for, got in touch with the Conan Doyle estate and said, "Would you mind if somebody wrote a Challenger collection?" And they said, "No, go ahead." So I did. So I got to write a whole set of Challenger stories. The interesting little fact about Challenger is Challenger's a Scotsman as well, according to Doyle. And Challenger was born in Larks in Ayrshire, which is about 6 miles from where I was a kid. So I've got a personal connection to Challenger as well. I always felt that Challenger was my pulp hero. So when I got that chance to write the stories for him, I was very happy. Plus, Wayne Miller got to do the illustrations for them, and there's some damn fine Professor Challenger illustrations in that book as well. I was very happy with.
To get back to Professor Challenger, you wrote a novel called Island of Terror, which is a sequel to The Lost World.
Yeah, it's a long novella rather than a novel, but yeah, that's another idea I had. That came from, I went on holiday to a small island in the Bristol Channel called Lundy Island, which is south of Wales and west of England in the Severn Estuary. It's a little island with nothing on it but puffins. But this was about 30 years ago, but the island stuck with me, and I ended up using it in that Challenger book as a place where they take velociraptors to train them. And that was an idea I couldn't get out of my head. It started out as a little short story, it was just going to be 10 pages or so, but it just grew and grew and grew, and then eventually I realised I had a sequel to The Lost World in my hand. And I was very lucky that Dark Regions Press published that as well. So I've got a nice hardcover edition of that as well as a paperback, as well as the ebook. And again, Wayne Miller's cover illustration for that one is stunning, and I love that one.
Now, Challenger appeared in 2 other novels by Doyle, The Poison Belt and The Land of the Mist. And Island of Terror sort of contradicts those novels. Was that deliberate on your part?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I just having some fun, basically. I don't stick rigorously to the canon when I'm writing my Sherlock Holmes stories. I get a lot of stick from Sherlock Holmes fans for that, and I didn't stick religiously to the canon to the Challenger one. I don't do it for Carnacki either. I guess I'm sticking from curious, but it wouldn't be as much fun for me if I had to stick to the original canons. I feel too much constrained with it, I think.
And just one more Carnacki question. In the Carnacki stories, he has this ritual, which I think is Samsa ritual, which you invented the words for. Could you tell us how you did that?
I made that up. There's some Gaelic in there and a bit of Latin in there, and I mixed it all up together, I think, if I remember rightly. And something that I thought sounded good.
Okay, Pete, if you have more questions.
You get your ideas, and the only real answer is I make shit up.
So, Willie, the first book I picked up by you, I picked up in St. Petersburg from a local publisher, Barclay Books.
Oh, that'd be Island Life. Yeah, that was
Island Life.
Yeah, that was 2001, and that was my first novel sale to Barclay Books, and they were promising the world they were going to print tens of thousands of copies and get it into bookshops all over the USA and make me a fortune. That was my first novel, I believe, and I was soon to find out that was a big problem. They only ended up selling a couple of hundred of that one. Is that the one with the lighthouse in the cover? The white?
Yes, sir.
Did you say yapping?
Yes.
Yeah, the one with the big lettering and the horrible cover. It's quite rare now. There's only about 200 of them ever left the warehouse. I found out later 3,000 in a warehouse somewhere, but they got pulped eventually. There was quite a few of us with that company. Jonas Cease was with them as well, and Simon Wood was with them. Simon's gone on to big things on the thriller side, and Joe's gone on to big things on the fantasy and horror side. So we didn't look too badly in the end, but it was my first real disappointing venture into publishing. Luckily, it didn't put me off trying again. It was a bit disappointing. But I've been lucky in that Griffin Wood Books have now brought out a nice new shiny edition of Island Life as well. The new paperback is much better looking than the old one.
So when I read this, this is, you know, it has a touch of Lovecraftiana in it, right?
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah,
but that works.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. I was playing a bit because that was the second novel I wrote. The Amulet was the first novel I wrote, and Island Life was the second one, and they were both very early on, so talking 93, 94-ish, so nearly 25 years ago again. It took a while for them to get published, but I wrote the bulk of them way back then. And Island Life was me playing with seeing what I could do with trying to get multiple characters into the story, trying to get historical backstory fitted in and how I might do that. And also because I was a Lovecraft fan even back then, I thought I wanted to get a little bit of Lovecraft into a Scottish story, so I shoehorned one in there. But I've got a lot of fun this for Island Life because I think it's got a lot of verb and it moves fast. It's got some interesting ideas in it. I often think I'd like to go back and write it again now, knowing how to do it better. But I think it works the way it is.
So that introduces me to you, and then I just go hog wild, and I get things like the creeping kelp.
Yeah, that was fun as well. That was my homage to Wyndham in a way. It was after reading the Kraken Wakes I got the idea to write that one, and it's got a bit of the Kraken Wakes in it. It's also got bits of the Day of the Triffids in it, and it's got a lot of Professor Quatermass in it, basically. So there's my mixture of British science fiction disaster tropes, and I had a lot of fun with it. And again, that region were good enough to publish it for me, and that was my first ever hardcover as well. So it was a big thrill getting that one in the hardcover version, turning up on my doorstep. So that's the first time I've ever published a novel in hardcover. So I always have fond memories of that one myself.
Yeah, it's not often you see an environmental Lovecraft novel.
I think my latest one, Fungoid, I don't know if you've read that yet, but that came out from Dark Fuse earlier on in the year. And that's another environmental Lovecraft novel as well. So I'm not finished with that genre yet either, so I'll probably write some more of that. Because that's my background. My degree was in botany. So I've got a degree in environmental science. And quite a lot of it comes up in my stories eventually, in different stories.
So let's build on that, because you publish a bunch in, is it Scientific American or what's
Nature, yeah. The Nature takes flash fiction for the back pages, and I've been lucky enough to sell the 6th to them, which is, as an ex-scientist myself, is always nice to see, because you know that Nature's got a huge circulation. They reckon that 500,000 people get their hands on each issue. So I don't know how many of them read it, but there's a hell of a lot of people. It gets sold in bookshops all over the world, and it turns up in labs and university libraries and everywhere. So
that's great.
It's probably my biggest circulation thing, even though they're only flash fiction. They pay good rates. They pay like 15 cents a word for a 900-word story, and basically for me, it's because it's nature that I like doing them. Because as an old scientist, it makes me very happy to know that they're taking my work.
Yeah, I think I see. I think I have all 6 issues with you in it.
All right, that's cool.
What about what was the inspiration for the Dunfield Terror?
Yeah, that was a good one. That's basically that takes place here, just down the road from my house. I got the idea originally in one of our winter storms, which get quite violent around about here. And I thought, what if the guy who was out driving the plough came across something weird in the fog and the snow? And it grew from there. The Dunfield Terror is me playing with, again, British scientists doing stupid things stories. bit like Keep and Kill, and a lot of old British science fiction movies from the 50s that I love. Again, it shuttles backwards and forwards in time between a scientist in the 1950s doing something stupid offshore and a monster appearing in a snowstorm in the present day here in Newfoundland. And it's how the two time streams eventually overlap and meet and effectively need each other to complete the story in both time zones. It's got a lot of science in it. Well, it's got a lot of timey-wimey Doctor Who stuff in it. It's got Quatermass type scientists, mad scientists in it as well, and it's got a lot of snow. And again, I think I did pretty well by the Newfoundland snowstorm end of it. The scientist end of it, maybe a bit too pulpy, but I think it works quite well. And I had a lot of fun writing it. And there are some very Lovecraftian touches in parts of that, because there's an opener of the way who is very much Job Sothoth, although he's not mentioned there as that by name. I don't tend to mention them by names in the roster. The opener of the way in that book has also turned up since then in various other books online, and it's becoming a bit of a Meikle marker point. That he's one of the things that turns up in numerous stories of mine.
I enjoyed that book, and I also enjoyed Broken Sigil. And I think I read somewhere, correct me if I'm wrong, Willie, but I think I read somewhere that that's one of your most personal stories. Can you talk about why that's true?
Several reasons. It's a story about a betrayal in a relationship, basically, which I have first-hand experience of, unfortunately, from a previous one. But it's also about a man who's deeply in love with the film The Maltese Falcon, which, again, I have first-hand experience of. And it's also about a nightmare of mine, a recurring one I've had since I was about 5 years old. And strangely enough, the nightmare is about a giant black bird. So the black bird made its appearance in Broken Sigil, both in the film references from Maltese Falcon and in the nightmare references from my own nightmare. And the betrayal sequences came from my own personal experience. They all sort of fused together into this very noirish idea. But the other thing that makes it personal is it's the first of a series of a new, well, I suppose what you call a Meikle mythos that's growing about the house that's in Broken Sigil, which is a special house which you can only get into if you've got a tattoo, a sigil, and a totem, which is something belonging to the person you want to see. If you've got those two, you can get into the house, and the house lets you see into somewhere where the person that you're wanting to see still exists. And whether that somewhere is a ghost, or whether it's heaven, or whether it's a parallel universe, depends on the story that's being told. But these houses turn up all over the place, all over the world in all time streams. So it allows me to pick houses and write stories about them in lots of different places, which I started doing. So there's Broken Sigil, Pentacle, and The Job are three novellas that are all got that same basic background mythos.
What was that third one again? Because I've got the other two.
The Job, which was on Dark Fuse Magazine's site, but it's not come out now. It's going to be bundled up with Broken Sigil and Pentacle into a new paperback by Crossroad Press. So all three will be available, and that's the first three of this new idea of mine. And following that, there's two full novels looking more into the same idea. So I'm sort of slowly building up a Meikle mythos and getting away from writing about other people's mythoses. And I think I'll be at this for a while, judging by the amount of story ideas I seem to have finding up about it now.
When's that going to happen? When's that going to be bundled up?
They're working on it at the moment. So they've got 11 novels and 5 novellas of mine to do. So it's going to take me a wee while to get through them all. But 7 previously published novels and 4 new ones, plus the 5 novellas that I had with Dark Fuse. So they've got a lot of work of mine to bundle up and get back out again.
Yeah, they're taking all your Dark Fuse books?
Yes, they're taking them all on.
Okay, what's the name of this press again?
Crossroad Press.
Crossroad?
David Niall Wilson's press.
Okay. Okay, well that's good. I'm glad that's happening.
Yeah, me too.
You guys have more questions for Willie? I don't want to.
So I want to follow up, just one more. Dark Melodies.
Yeah, that's a story collection, yeah.
collection of Lovecraftian music stories.
Yeah, music's my other love. I mean, I think I said already, if I wasn't a writer, I'd probably be a musician. I've been playing guitar badly since 1972. And I used to sing choirs when I was a kid as well, so music's always been a big obsession with me. And I got a chance to write my first short story collection for that region. Crafting and music seemed like the obvious way for me to go. And I think I like a lot of the stories in that book, actually. I think it turned out pretty well.
I don't view that as Lovecraftian, though. I just reread the Death of Sergeant George.
Like a lot of my work, it's not overtly Lovecraftian, but to me it feels Lovecraftian. I don't know if you understand that. But I very rarely use anything actually from Lovecraft, apart from the Oxford occasionally, but I never use any of the Elder Gods or any of that. I've used the Meikle once or twice, but it's the feel of the thing more than the Lovecraftian aspects itself that I'm going for.
Yeah, I think that works sometimes better than being overtly Lovecraftian.
I get a bit bored sometimes with all the lists of gods and all their aspects, that especially in the Call of Cthulhu type games things. I never really got on with, because I found it a bit too, I don't know what the word is, nerdy, something, geeky. I'm a geek something myself, but that side of it I just couldn't get into.
Yeah, I'm not either. I'm a huge fan of cosmic horror, but yeah, I couldn't name all the Lovecraftian gods. No way.
I, on the other hand,
yes, Pete and Rick can name them.
Yes, we can. I just want to ask Willie, can you talk about Angus Seton? You're a Scottish alchemist.
Oh, Seton's turning up everywhere, yeah. He started off in a book called Concordances to the Red Serpent, which was my attempt at writing a the Da Vinci Code type thriller with a little bit of supernatural in it. I had goals for that book. I tried to flog it around lots of different agents, but nobody took it. And the book didn't sort of died a death. It's still in print, but hardly anybody read it, I don't think. But the character stuck with me. And I've since developed a whole background history of the Seton family from a set of alchemists back in the 12th and 13th century. And various members of that family are now turning up all through my books. Angus himself turns up in my new Sherlock Holmes novel, The Dreaming Man. Another member of the family turns up in all those Sword and Sorcery short stories I wrote, Augustus Seton. And there's another member of the family turned up in a new novella that I've got. So the family are spreading their tentacles around everywhere as well.
You don't have an agent, is that correct? We lost him again.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, okay.
For a second, we're back.
All right. You don't have an agent, is that right?
I've tried numerous times, all to no avail. I don't want an agent, they don't want me.
Well, I mean, but you seem to be extremely successful without one. And I wanted to talk to you about that.
Yeah, I do a lot of jumping up and down and selling my own stuff.
Yeah.
I think having been around the block several times with different publishers, I know a lot of publishers talk to online now as well. So I can tell them to go away and stop bothering them. So I end with a lot of people, with a lot of different editors, that always helps. Don't make that unwritten rule as I can, but I've been going through making as many friends as I can. It's just in good stead. But I'd like to have an agent. I mean, I'd love to sell foreign language rights to my books and get film deals and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I do as well as I can here. I've sold a few foreign language versions. I've got quite a few sold to Voodoo Press in Germany, and a few more sold to Germany. And there's a Portuguese version of the Amulet now as well. So I'm getting some things done. I'd like to get more. I'd like to branch out, get some of this stuff worldwide, and get the big shiny deal and make lots of money and all that kind of stuff. But that's always been the plan. I'm 25 years in and it still hasn't happened, so I don't know how much longer I'll have to wait.
Well, at the same time, though, I know that there's an awful lot of writers who would love to be in your position. You get up every day, you know, whenever you want, you do what you want. You get up and you write, and you make a living from your writing. That's all that you do.
That's right, yeah. I mean, I do count my blessings every morning. It's just about and I think back to 25 years ago, all I really wanted to do was have one story in one magazine, and that would leave me happy. You think of what I've got now and what I've had published and all the credits I've had and all the people in anthologies that have appeared alongside. To have all of that, I'm really happy, very lucky in my career. And I've got a story coming in Shadows on Main Street, a Lovecraftian anthology, and Joyce Carol Oates, of all people, is going to be in that. And the idea of me being in the same book as Joyce Carol Oates just makes me feel very peculiar.
That's great. Talk about what you have coming out now. I mean, we talked about the book that I'm publishing, Carnacki, but what else do you have coming out?
The Carnacki one, there's another Victorian supernatural collection coming from Crystal Lake Publishing in South Africa. Joe Mendart's another one of those editors that I was talking about who I've been friends with over the past few years. He published my Samurai and Other Stories collection, which was a reprint collection of some of my favourite stories. This new one's all new stories, and it's called The Ghost Club. And it's stories as if told by members of a gentleman's club back in the 1890s in London. The three main members of the club are Arthur Conan Doyle, Bram Stoker, and Henry James. And they invite a writer every week to come and tell a story. And the book is a series of short stories as if written by these writers. So I've got stories as if written by Conan Doyle, Stoker, and James. I've also got stories as if written by Robert Louis Stevenson, H. Rider Haggard, Leo Tolstoy, Jules Verne, Oscar Wilde, Mark Twain, and a couple I can't remember. It's very ambitious, and it might fall flat in its face, but it was an idea I had, and I thought I'd get it down out of my head and onto paper. So I had fun pretending to be all these other writers and writing stories, pastiches basically, in their vein. Whether it all works or not, time will tell.
Anything else you have coming out?
I've got, I think I mentioned earlier, I've got 4 new novels with Crossroad Press. I'm waiting for them to tell me. Excuse me. The first one of them will be Songs of Dreaming Gods, it's called, which is an exploration of my mythos I was talking about earlier about the sigils and totems houses. And it's about one of those houses which has gone wrong, and cops find a mass murder in the house and go in to investigate, and find that once they're in the house, they can't get out again. And it's all about the cops finding out how the house works, what the house is there for, and how they're going to cope being in it when they can't get out. And it's probably one of the favourite things I've written that I've done. I'm hoping it goes down well. It's certainly a Meikle original. There's very little of anybody else in it apart from me, so if it does fail, it's all me.
Guys, do you have any more questions for Willie?
Yeah, I do. Were you going to tell us how you ended up in New?
Well, I was going to tell you how I ended up here, wasn't I? Yeah. 10 years back, 2007, just about now, actually today, what's the date? 3rd of September.
3rd, yeah.
10 years ago just now, I was on a plane coming to Newfoundland.
No kidding. Exact date?
Yep, just realised that.
Oh, wow.
So, go back 4 months from now, 10 years ago, I got made redundant in Scotland. From I'd been working in IT and the company folded. I was working for a company in Edinburgh. So we thought, I could either look for another job, which there weren't that many around. I was getting up towards 50 at the time, or we could move to Canada and try our luck. We sold our house in Scotland, made quite a big profit on that, and we'd been over here on holiday 2 years before and loved the place, so I thought we'll go over there and look for a house and see what we can find. For 6 months just to see what we could do. So we came over, found this house, fell in love, and decided to stay. So that was 10 years ago just now. I've been here ever since. The first year I was working on a whale watching boat as a guide. So I was going out all summer on a boat, taking people out to watch whales, which was probably the most fun I've ever had in my life, actually. I loved that. Spent 4 months out on boats every day, watching whales and wildlife. and writing in the evenings. But that only lasted for 1 year. And since then, I've been a full-time writer. That's basically 9.5 years I've been writing full-time now since I got here. And next year my works pension kicks in, so the money won't be too much of a problem after that either. So I should be a full-time writer the rest of my life now, hopefully.
That's a good feeling, huh?
Yeah.
Matt, you have another question?
No, just will we ever see you at Necronomicon?
I'd love to. I would love to. It's a hell of a long way from here, really, and there's a lot of money. Money is, I do make a living at writing, but not a huge amount. And Necronomicon is a bit of a trek, because just to get off this island, I've got a 300-mile drive to get to an airport. And I've got to get a plane from here to somewhere like Halifax, and then another plane from there down south to New York, and another trip from there to Necronomicon. So it's a long trip.
Wow.
But whether we'll get there or not, I don't know. Just have to wait and see how the money goes.
Willie, what's your website address? How can people stay in tune with what you're doing?
It's an easy one. It's williammeikle.com.
Okay.
And if anybody wants to sign up, I've got a newsletter on the go on that website there. And there's a free book of Lovecraftian stories available for anybody that wants to sign up to the newsletter as well. So if anybody wants to sell my short stories culled from anthologies, you can get it free by signing up for my newsletter.
All right. Okay, well, you guys don't have any more questions for Willie? Tapped out?
I got one.
All right, I figured you might.
Willie, could you talk about the pig monsters from House of the Borderlands? You like to use them a lot.
Sorry, you said it again. I'm losing you.
Willie, could you talk about the pig monsters from House on the Borderlands? They pop up a lot in your works.
Yes, I hope that. That was a Red House in the Borderland. I was probably too young to really understand it. I was probably only about 9 or 10 when way back in an old British paper magazine. My granddad had things made a big impression on me at the time. I remember having a nightmare about them back then. And when I read it again when I was about 18, I still felt the power of this whole story, but the swine thing still stuck with me, and I thought, I have to do something with them myself someday. And luckily I have now, because they turned up in the title story of the Carnacki book, the Edinburgh Townhouse. It's a house in Edinburgh that Carnacki goes to investigate, and it's got a link to a Hudsonian time slip, effectively. And the swine monsters are there, which are like anthropomorphic. They can stand up on back legs with human heads, big tusks, and basically very scarily run.
Yeah.
I also turned up in Carnacki again as well. One of the big Carnacki original stories is The Hog, which is a boar story. I didn't want to use that directly, but I wanted to use the swine things and from Hodgson as well with my Carnacki stories. They turn up in a novella back in the first book in the Heaven and Hale collection, and the Edinburgh Townhouse stories are revisiting on that, basically.
All right, so williammeikle.com is the best way to keep in touch with what you're doing.
Yeah.
And anything else that you want to talk about that I didn't cover that we forgot to ask?
No, just
nope. Okay.
I think I already mentioned just about everything. Just about the Crossroads Press thing. You were asking about Dark Fuse. And I did have a cunning plan about the Dark Fuse books, and I was lucky that when I got the letter from Shane last week, I was able to contact Dave at Crossroads and say, is my cunning plan still available? And he said, yeah, just send the stuff over. So I managed to ship 11 novels and 5 novellas over to Crossroads Press. Crossroads have got a lot of writers we know on their books. Tim Curran's with Crossroads for one.
Yeah.
I guess Tim had found them in the first place. And Dave looks after his letters. He pays good royalties, pays good percentages, and he pays right on time every time. And he knows what he's doing, so he's been at it for a while. So I'm happy to be with him. We're also getting to reuse the Dark Fuse covers, because I did a deal with the cover designer, Zach McCain. So the books will be coming back out with the same covers they had at Dark Fuse, just with the Dark Fuse.
Oh, that's good.
Taken off them. So people who are looking for boots won't be confused if they're looking for them and see something different, which is nice. And as I say, we're working at the moment on a plan of action as to when we bring everything out. But I think the first one will be the new Songs of Dreaming Gods I was mentioning earlier, and also Night of the Wendigo might well be the first novel that gets reprinted out of them all as well. So I think we might reprint the old ones in order, the same order we did them as Dark Fuse. So they're coming out over the next, I guess it's probably going to be a year before they're all out.
Okay, so basically, if you can't. I don't think anyone could buy Broken Sigil, for example, right now.
At the moment, no. Or
yeah, they have to wait.
They're out of print until the Rogers Press gets them back out now.
Yeah, but it'll happen. So that's good to know.
And one other question that you wrote down, you were going to ask me, and I have written this all about, was my favourite writers. You asked me about.
Yes, that's right. Thank you.
There's Hodgson, who we've been talking about a bit tonight already, and Lovecraft, of course. There's Wyndham, who I've mentioned, and Conan Doyle, who has been with me since as long as I can remember. But more recently, I think the two main people who got me into horror, rather than Lovecraft, were Fritz Lieber and Ramsey Campbell. I've been reading Ramsey for God knows how long now, since The Dog Who Ate His Mother came out, which was way back when. I've been a constant Ramsey fan since then. And I think I've read everything Fritz Lieber ever published over the years too. So those two have been, even more than Lovecraft, bigger influences on me, I think. More recently, I've become a huge fan of Reg G. Oliver. I don't know if any of you have read Reggie's work, but he's one of the best short story writers around at the moment of the old school, reworking the old traditional stories, the M.R. James type ghost stories. So there's Reggie, and Gary McMahon, British writer, I like an awful lot. Gary is quite a brutal horror story writer, but he's got a deep humanity in his stories that appeals to me a lot. And also a touch of Lovecraftiana in Gary, which comes out every now and again. He won't thank me for talking much about his humanity because he's brutal and deep himself. But if he's hearing this, hi Gary. And my most favourite book of recent years was Paul Tremblay's The Heathrow Ghosts. I loved that a lot. And I think
good book.
That's going to be a classic for me. I think that's one of the few of recent years that I'll go back and read again and again. I think it's probably the best of the recent bunch.
Matt, you have a question?
No, but if people are interested in being collectors of these limited editions from Dark Fuse, sometimes you can go on Camelot Books, and they'll still have a copy.
Yeah, Camelot have them, and also in the UK, if anybody in the UK is listening, Jeff and Joyce books in the UK are like Camelot, or the British dealer for Dark Fuse, and they've still got some of the limited editions in their catalogue.
Well, here's a question I was going to ask before we let you go that I forgot to ask until now. Do you have a favorite character that you're writing about, like Carnacki, Sherlock Holmes, Derek Adams, or is it just?
It varies between Carnacki and Derek Adams, I think.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm back with, after finishing that Carnacki collection for a year, I'm back with Derek at home, so he's moved into the read a bit again now. But I'm sure I'll be back with Carnacki again before too long. I think I've got 4 or 5 Carnacki stories that have been published in anthologies that I've never seen it into a collection yet. So there might be another collection down the line just to wrap everything up and get them all into one collection in the end. So I'll finish on 4 rather than finishing on 3. But we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that'd be great. Well, Willie, thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate it. It was great talking with you.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it too.
All right.
Nice talking to you.
Yeah. Have a good
You
evening.
too.
Thanks, Willie.
Everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, Willie.
All right. Well, that went pretty well, considering the internet issues up there on the edge of the planet. I wanted to say, a lot of people came up to me at Necronomicon and told me how much they enjoyed the podcast and other things that I'm doing. And I didn't say it, but I wanted to say now how much I appreciate that. That's always a real shot in the arm for me. So thank you.
I'm pretty impressed with Willie Meikle to actually make that leap.
Yeah.
Move somewhere new and start a career that you're going to make your living for the rest of your life as a writer when you're 50. That was pretty bold.
Yeah. Yeah. went to Canada, liked it, and decided to move there. You guys want to tackle that question from Shane? We've been putting it off for a few weeks. Rick and Pete know what I'm talking about. Let me read it. You got this? Okay, let me read the question. My name is Shane. I've been into your show now for more than a year, maybe longer. I wanted to get in touch with you and see how I can be directed to more information about the priesthood or something similar to the story of Nefron Ka and the Brotherhood of the Beast. Books such as The Hunter of the Dark, The Lurking Fear, Fane of the Black Pharaoh, and The Black Stone, and others. Ramsey Campbell's story, The Tugging, was really interesting. And I love the Cult of Starry Wisdom stories. However, I've been wanting to delve into the depths of this story and want to soak up your knowledge, all your knowledge on the subject, if you would be willing to guide me in the right direction. Thank you for your time and your podcast. Go, Pete. You're muted, Pete.
So if you're seriously interested in actually exploring what has become, sort of like ritual magic based on the Lovecraft mythos, I'm going to point you to 3 people. The first person I'm going to point you to is Don Webb. Don Webb was a former Sethian high priest, and he's currently a Grand Master of the Temple of Set. He is a Lovecraftian writer, and his work permeates with Lovecraftian ideas, as well as the ideas behind the Temple of Set, which is a spin-off in ways I can't really go into in the podcast of Anton LaVey's original Church of Satan. So, but the Church of Satan is not what you think. It's a little different. But if you are interested in that, Don Webb is the first author I'm going to point you to. And he has several books that are collections of his short stories that are very Lovecraftian in nature, but he also has a bunch of books that are more occult philosophy fiction than Lovecraftian, and he's worth looking into. He's a really decent writer. He wrote one of my favorite Lovecraftian short stories, The Chronicles of the New Home Asylum, something like that. The second person I'm going to talk about is Don Tyson. Don Tyson will be familiar to you guys because he's the guy who wrote the Necronomicon and the Travels of Alhazar. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. He also writes fiction that's based in philosophical occultism. He writes about cult practices beyond just Lovecraftian fiction. He's Canadian. I think he lives in Halifax, of all places, which can't be far from Willie. But yeah, I have several of Don's books on my shelves, and while they're really occult practices draped in a fiction story, in much of the way that was done in previous generations. And then, of course, there's the big one, Simon's Necronomicon. We all saw this. This is the great little book with the multiple pentagram sigil on it that we've all adopted as the symbol of the Necronomicon. Came out in the late 70s. No one has actually admitted to being Simon, but there is a sequel. There's actually multiple sequels to the Necronomicon. The last one that I can remember being the Gates of the Necronomicon. Now, Gates of the Necronomicon is copyrighted to Peter Levenda. If that name sounds familiar, Peter Levenda wrote the Lovecraft Code, which I think ASIP reviewed a few months ago.
He did, yeah.
Levenda also wrote Dark Lord, a treatise on Lovecraft and Typhonian magic. And basically, Levenda is a proponent of Typhonian ritual magic, and that practice descends from Crowley's Golden Dawn sect. So, if you're interested in looking into this, there's 3 names for you: Peter Levenda, Don Tyson, and Don Webb. And no one else can help you on that journey but you.
Pete, Don
Yeah.
Webb's. I get the impression that Don Webb's occult books are incredibly expensive these days.
I think you are correct. But every once in a while, I would find one in a used bookstore, and nobody knows what they have. They're really hard to find. But I think some of them are still available.
Now, if you go back to Crowley,
Wait a minute. If you're bringing pizza, you got to bring enough pizza for everybody, buddy.
It's downstairs. Just go get it.
Sorry, Rick. Go on.
so you mentioned Aleister Crowley. And one thing I've discovered, and I can't find too much information on this in Crowley's writings, at least what's available in Google Books. But Nodin's Lord of the Great Abyss seems to have played a major role in Crowley's rituals. That's from Celtic mythology. Nodin's was used by Arthur Machen and then picked up by Lovecraft. The only references I've got this from are from it's like writers of fiction who were associates of Crowley mentioned Nodin's in connection with Crowley. But I can't find any, actual book which goes into how he used Nodin's in his rituals.
All right. Anything to add to all this, guys? No?
No, I would just suggest that if you be careful what you're doing and who you get involved with. There's a lot of nice people out there, but there are some real jerks too. And just be careful. Protect yourself at all times.
Wasn't there a writer named Kenneth Grant who went into all this too?
Kenneth Grant created the Typhonian Order as an inheritor of Crowley's Golden Dawn, and that's actually what Levenda's writing about in Dark Lord, Lovecraft, and Typhonian Magic.
All right. Thanks, guys. So I discovered something cool. Rick, as I think you know, I'm really into Doctor Who, but I haven't seen the classic series. So, I buy movies and rent movies on Amazon. I'm not much into DVDs anymore. So, of course, I go to Amazon and I look for the classic Doctor Who's a while back, and they're not there. They're not available. So I discovered something. If you have the Amazon channel on your Roku box or your smart TV, you could do that. You can rent movies, you can buy movies, TV, and so forth. But you can also get other channels. So there's sort of channels within channels. So there's a channel called BritBox that I'm trying free for 7 days, and it's got all kinds of British shows on it, as you would suspect from the name. And one of the shows that it has is classic Doctor Who. Looks like every single episode. So any Doctor Who fans out there, try BritBox if you haven't seen the classic Doctor Who.
One of the problems was when they had, they originally did Doctor Who on tape, like the old soap operas, and it destroyed a lot of them. And some have later been found in private collections or whatever. But like the second Doctor, Patrick Troughton, there are a lot of episodes lost to his.
Yeah, you're right.
In serials from the summaries that I read had to have been superb. There's also like a 10-part Doctor Who serial called The Daleks' Master Plan, involving the first Doctor, William Hartnell, which has mainly been lost. It's tragic. There's a lot of early British television that just got junked. Nobody realizing that DVDs would come along and all this stuff would become marketable.
Right.
Yeah, nobody ever thought that they were going to ever rebroadcast any of this stuff.
Right. Movies too. you know, theater, and that's it until video stores came along.
Well, that's why we lost a lot. We lost a lot of silent films. Like London After Midnight was Lon Chaney, which is an early vampire story.
That's a real movie, because that's in the Whitechapel series. That's a movie that's supposed to drive you insane, according to, you know, if you watch it.
It wouldn't from the summaries of it. It was later if you want to get an idea of what it was probably like, it was remade as Mark of the Vampire was Bela Lugosi, and that's available.
Well, you don't know for sure, though. It might drive you insane if you watch it.
I read a novelization of screenplay. I'm sure it's not going to drive me insane.
Well, back to Doctor Who. Let's put it this way. It looks like every episode of Doctor Who that's available is on there.
Yeah.
In order. So I was pretty happy about that. All kinds of British shows, and I love this. All of the Jeremy Brett Sherlock Holmes. Yeah. I don't know if you guys are into the Jeremy Brett Sherlock Holmes or not, but in my opinion, he was the best Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
Sorry?
That was back in the days of PBS.
Yeah.
Days.
Yeah, I loved it, but they kind of ran out of steam near the end. They were making 90-minute TV movies that were based very loosely on the stories.
Yeah.
Like the one they did on the Sussex Vampire was
that was no good. Yeah.
Was horrible, I thought.
Yeah, but I'd say 90% of it was pretty great.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I would say 90% of it is excellent.
And I really don't think anybody has ever beaten Jeremy Brett. I mean, to me, he's the definitive Sherlock Holmes.
I agree with you.
You know,
and I thought Eric Porter was the classic Moriarty too.
Yeah, and what's his name? The Watson on that show.
Well, there were two actors who played Dr. Watson.
Yeah, the first one that was only there for one season.
Yeah, I think he was actually for two. But I like the Edward Hardwicke was the second actor.
Edward Hardwicke, yeah.
Who was the son of Cedric Hardwicke, if you know old-time actors. But I found him, not the first Watson whose name I don't remember.
David something, I think.
He was good. He was good too, but I just felt Edward Hardwicke caught Watson better.
Yeah, just like Jeremy Brett, I think he's the definitive Watson.
Right.
Yeah. Not that I don't enjoy the show Sherlock and other Sherlock shows.
Did you ever watch Hercule Poirot with David Suchet?
Oh, those are great.
He is the classic Poirot. Nobody does Poirot better than him.
Yeah.
Never got into him.
You know,
So.
my favorite detective stories from when I was movies when I was a kid, they'd never be made now. It was the Charlie Chan movies.
So I have to tell you a secret, Matt.
Yeah.
A secret, yeah, like nobody's watching, right? Nobody's listening.
I think by 2021, Charlie Chan becomes public domain.
Oh, really?
And it is my wish project to take a year and write a biography of Charlie Chan.
Well, you're going to do the movie version, not the novel version.
I want to do them all.
Well, the novel version is very different from the movie version.
Well, but I'm talking about when I was like a kid. I was like, I don't know, 9, 10. It was like late 60s, maybe the early 70s.
You were 9, 10 when the silent movies came out?
Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Mike.
1860?
You know, it's like it's like what you would watch on Saturday. There'd be Chiller Theater, and then there'd be a Charlie Chan movie.
Yep.
Or you know, let's fess up, they had Ma and Pa Kettle too.
Yeah, Ma and Pa Kettle, Charlie Chan, Mr. Wong.
The Blondie movies.
Yep. Oh God,
But the Charlie Chan movies, like, I didn't get into the noir type detective movies till much later. When I was a kid, it was Charlie Chan, but nowadays, if you tried to make a movie like that, oh my Lord.
Well, we get into the issue of racism.
Right.
Other than the whole question of a Caucasian actor playing an Asian character, they weren't racist towards Orientals, but oh my God, they were racist towards African Americans.
Oh, what? You don't like Birmingham Brown?
Oh, come on! You got
It was terrible. Yes.
You know, this is what I did. I was in my rheumatology fellowship. This was like 1991 Thanksgiving, and I invited everyone over, like 10 or 15 people, to my house to have Thanksgiving dinner. We made a big Thanksgiving dinner. So Isabel and I, we were just married. It was our first Thanksgiving. We weren't near family, and we thought we'd get a movie. So the movie I rented was Holiday Inn. I got Holiday Inn from the local Blockbuster or whatever was renting movies at the time, and I showed it. And don't you know, the point of Holiday Inn is they're only open on holidays, and they do a big musical production number, and that's when they have all their guests. And that's, everyone talks about singing White Christmas at Christmas time. Well, let me tell you that the Abraham Lincoln birthday celebration was done in blackface and had lyrics about "He set the darkies free," and I'm going, and I've got a house full of guests, and I'm going, oh my fucking God, what have I done? And the thing is, you know, everybody just burst out laughing because it was so ridiculous. It was like 1940s institutionalized racism. But you never think about that when you think about the movie Holiday Inn. You think, oh, it's gonna be a nice holiday movie for the family. You can't escape it. You can't escape what that era was.
Yep. And you know better now.
Well, I don't show that movie anymore.
Well,
the thing about the Charlie Chan movies, when I found, he was the most worshipped detective in the world in those movies. Everybody fawns over this guy. You know, which was interesting for an Asian.
No.
It's like he goes into Panama. Oh my God, it's Charlie Chan. Can we pay your hotel room or whatever?
Then they have number 2 son to do the stupid humor bits.
Well, number one son was the original number 1 son, Key Luke, was fairly competent.
But they got around to number 4 son in one of the movies I saw.
Yeah, by that time the efficiency of the sons got worse and worse.
And let's not talk about, what was it, Iris, the daughter? Yeah.
Oh well. I'm just saying. I don't know how we got there, but it's just that's what I watched it.
Switching over to audio drama, which I listen to a lot. I like audiobooks and especially audio drama. I think that's come up about 100 times on this show. Audible.com has an audio drama, not an audio book, but an audio drama of X-Files Cold Cases.
Oh, really?
Is what it's called. Yeah, and it's starring David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson. Got the cigarette smoking guy. Got Skinner in it.
Wow.
It's pretty good. I'm enjoying it. It's at audible.com. And no, they're not paying me to say this, but I'm just really enjoying it. So check it out. I've been listening to it on the Victrola that my son gave me for Christmas. I forgot to mention this book last week by Brett J. Talley from Journal Stone. The Fiddle is the Devil's Instrument, and it's a book of Lovecraftian tales. 13 stories, Lovecraftian stories from Brett J. Talley. Chris from Journal Swim gave me a copy at Necronomicon, and I have not had a chance to read it yet, but That Which Should Not Be, Brett's novel, and the follow-up, and That Which Should Not Be is just a great Lovecraftian novel. If you haven't read it, pick it up. So I'm sure that these stories are great as well. So we have anything else we need to let people know about, Matt?
If you are into PS Publishing books, there are several new books that are coming out that you can order now. If you're collecting the Peter von Schally illustrated Lovecraftian stories, the last 4 are being released in the next month or 2. They're up for pre-order. What I would do is go online and sample his artwork. And if it appeals to you and you want illustrated versions of these books, they've got all the major Lovecraftian stories with Joshi's corrected text. So they're up-to-date text, and it's like The Shadows over Innsmouth. I think one of the ones coming out is the Herbert West story. So there are, the last 4 of those are available. The second novel in Ramsey Campbell's trilogy about Beowulf, the first was The Searching Dead. The second novel is now available for pre-order. It's hardcover, so it's like 20 quid plus shipping, so it's not cheap.
Yeah, I've got to pick up a copy of The Searching Dead because it looks great.
Yeah, I'm certain that's going to be available in soft cover or electronic edition eventually if it's not already. But the second book in the series is coming out. I can maybe look up what it is. But the other thing that is coming out, which I found very interesting, is an anthology edited by Joe Pulver, since we did mention Joe, which is called Darker Companions. It's Scott David Anielowski and Joe Pulver. It's a anthology of horror inspired by the stories of Ramsey Campbell. So, you know, we had The Children of Old Leech, which was inspired by Laird Barron. And there were these stories about the cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Well, now there's one about the Grand Master from England, Ramsey Campbell. On that novel by Ramsey Campbell is Born to the Dark. So there's just several books coming out from PS Publishing that will be well worth a look. Granted, they are expensive, but the books are gorgeous.
If you want to save money on the postage, get them from Camelot Books. Okay. Camelot Books eventually stocks all of them.
Okay. The Peasley Papers by, damn it, who wrote that? I don't know.
I can't remember.
By Pete Rollick. Peasley Papers, we're doing some final line edits, and I would say in about a month that'll be ready to go and be available for everyone. So it's just for a couple of people have asked me about that, so wanted to update you on that. So, all right. Well, thanks, guys. It was an enjoyable show. I love talking to Willie. And thanks for listening. We will not have a show next week because it's my wife's birthday. But the week after that, we'll have a show, and Oren Gray will be the guest. So
I'll be, probably lost in the hurricane next week anyway. So
yeah, that's okay. You can come here. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.